this is not going to end. This is not going to end. Our girls are going to be exposed to these kind of messages that the way you fight an imbalance of power is by grasping for the cheap power of flying around a stripper pole, and we need to know how to combat those messages. So
yes,
let's pretend we never watched that. I wish this were full of whiskeys. Welcome back to the new and improved edition of This Is Jen. Don't forget to leave a comment about really anything, because I'm working on my YouTube page. I did plan to have it a little more built out by now, but I have 6 kids. The school year just started. Life is crazy. And so I need your help. Leave a couple comments. Leave 5 comments so that YouTube knows that I am not a Russian bot. Not sure that we have made this clear to YouTube. So thank you very much to those of you who have commented. Keep the comments coming, and let's jump right in. My first big announcement before we get to the topic of the day is I am now running bonus content through Patreon. And I am very, very excited about this. I thought about doing it through my own website and everything, but you guys know I have a background in high tech. So I watch these kind of companies like Patreon just out of curiosity. I'm always curious to see how innovators are using technology to connect people with one another. I am so impressed with Patreon as a business that I scrapped my whole thing. I was going to do it on my own website. I'm just running everything through Patreon. And to make sure that it is a good experience for you, I joined a few Patreons myself to make sure that I like using it, being on the other end of things. I love it. And now I'm obsessed, and I'm about to spend my family into the poorhouse with all of these Patreon. I'm like a member of 10 Patreons now. So patreon.com/thisisjen is where you can get bonus content, bonus episodes of this show. But perhaps most importantly, I will tell you everything I know about hair and makeup and beauty. And I mean everything. So the one thing I would like to ask is, if you join the Patreon, do not publicly repeat what I say on there. Well, actually, about anything, but especially the beauty tips, because I'm going to share some personal things. You can tell your friends. You can even put it on Instagram stories because they're deleted. But I don't want a Google search for. I'm going to be very intimate and honest on the beauty Patreon, and I don't want that on Google. So I just ask, if you join, that you keep it private. Patreon.com/thisisjen. Now, guess what I did last night?
What did you do?
I'm glad you asked, Shady. Thank you.
I know.
Shady Ray producing this. Welcome back, Shady.
Hello.
Everyone loves having you here. I watched Cuties.
Oh,
Thank you.
I did too. God.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Right,
it was so bad.
Let's pretend like I asked you to do it for the show. I didn't know that's how Shady was going to spend her evening. Okay, so I watched Cuties, and I should tell you that one of the reasons I watched it is, obviously there's a big backlash against the show. I wanted to watch it for myself. I didn't want to give them the extra views, but I have been caught up in some controversies before in my talk radio years, when I heard from people I trusted that there was a big controversy. So I got wound up about it. And I don't want to say that when I was on the air 2 hours a day, every day doing talk radio, I filled time by just stirring the pot and talking about random stuff. Obviously, I never did that even once ever, and neither does all of my friends who are still in talk radio. They don't do it either. It never happens. Never did it. But do you remember the Starbucks cup controversy? I don't remember the details, but it was they put out some cup that's worship all the Wiccan gods now. The tree god and crystals. It was written on the cup, someone who I'm sure has been fired a long time. They were putting quotes on the Starbucks cups. Some of them were contrary to Christianity. So I was talking about it. They shouldn't have done that. Well, then when I researched it further, it turns out they had Christian leaders as well saying some things. I had to walk it back a little bit because I thought, well, all right, they're trying to do all these different perspectives. Some of them are annoying, but I don't think this was like they're trying to take down the entire religion of Christianity with their quote cups. And there are other reasons not to have issues with what Starbucks supports. I'm not saying they're a perfect organization other than that. I'm just saying that I've been around the block and sometimes people get whipped into a frenzy about things. And then when I take a closer look, I'm like, well, there's more nuance here than I thought. So I watched Cuties. When I pulled up this show on Netflix, it was in the top 10. And I'm worried that what's getting all this views to the show is us, people who suspect we will probably hate it, watching it so that we can learn more about it. So I watched it so that you don't have to. Now, let me begin by summarizing this for you. The protagonist is a young girl, probably 10 or 11, who is from an immigrant family, and they're Muslim. The first thing that was amiss, the first thing that shocked me before Little Girls Dancing in Booty Shorts was that it makes Muslims look really bad. You know how every religion has an extreme wing of it. Every religion has their crazies, except for Catholicism. No crazies. None. No crazies in Catholicism. Only other religions have crazies. So it takes this kind of extreme version of Islam and just makes it look really bad. These women are miserable and they have no voice and they have no freedom. So and I was very confused by what was going on because I was like, we don't do that in the US of A. Like, we're open to all peoples and we're welcoming, and what is happening? So that's when it clicked for me. So I was texting a friend who was, I guess we were all watching Cuties last night because it wasn't Shady, who was also, she also watched Cuties.
It.
But there was another friend who was watching it last night. Okay, so we all need to repent before God because we were all watching Cuties last night. So I was texting a friend. So she told me it's French. And that makes everything make sense. And I don't want to start this program, only the third in the newly revamped This Is Jen show. I don't want to start it by saying, what is wrong with the French? Maybe Shady could say it for me.
But what's wrong
but
with the French?
What is wrong with the French?
Oh.
They're like, literally, this movie is like, let's make Muslims look horrible and sexualize young girls. That's this movie. Why aren't the Muslims upset about this? That was really my first take. So we start with that. So there's actually more. There is a cornucopia. You know we're getting ahead of the season here, but you know the Thanksgiving imagery of the Horn of Plenty. That is what there is to hate about Cuties. You think it's just for the sexualization of minors, but no, they make Islam look really bad too. And people from Senegal, it is a horn of plenty of things to hate. So they take this culture, a subset of a culture where women legitimately are oppressed. Women legitimately, they don't have a voice, and there are real problems there. And they set up this solution in this narrative that says, hey, are the men of your world keeping you down? Are you having freedoms restricted in a way that's not fair? You know what you need to do, girl. You know how to find your freedom? Dress and act like a complete floozy.
Yes.
Do people still say floozy? Is that? I mean, that's.
I don't know. I do.
Well, I'm trying to content warning, PG-13 warning. If you have kids in the car, turn it down for a second. I'm trying not to say ho. That's what I'm trying not to say ho. So is floozy better?
I like floozy.
And I'm not
like
calling
floozy.
anyone a hoe. Or
I think
a
it just
floozy.
brings it
I'm
back.
I'm not. What I'm saying is to present yourself in a certain way,
a floozy way
that is unbefitting of human dignity.
Yeah.
So, because there can be floozies who, they look like they're straight out of Downton
They
Abbey.
really do.
Yeah. So I should put this on Patreon. This is high quality content.
It is. How to spot a floozy.
And by the way, I think one of my biggest shocks about Cuties, I didn't know anyone still cared about this. This narrative is out there all the time that tells young girls that sexualizing themselves and dressing in a very provocative way that turns them into objects for men's lust. This message is just out there. Like, I was at it was either Target or Walmart, and I saw panties for girls, like not for petite women, for it was in the girls section, and it said in rhinestones "flirt" on the back of it.
What?
Yes, I did. And these were in girls' sizes.
Honey.
And then you'll go into the swimwear section at these sort of like little girls bikinis that are like, so I didn't know we cared. And I'm excited that we care. I had no idea that we as a society still cared about this. So I'm really glad that everyone is up in arms. But this, and one of the reasons I bring this up is Cuties is a microcosm of what we face as parents, whether you have sons or daughters, but especially if you have daughters. 4 of my children are girls. So this is something that's on my mind a lot. This whole Cuties situation is a microcosm of what we face as parents, and this is really why I'm talking about it. I think we should all kind of pretend that this show does not exist and never speak or think about it again, but it is worth talking about how stupid this narrative is so that when our girls encounter these kind of messages, which will be in the next 5 minutes, we know how to effectively combat them. So this is something that we've been seeing it a lot for a long time. I would say it really broke into the mainstream with Sex and the City, although that was not as much targeted at girls. But you see this targeted at women of all ages. This narrative that identifies a real problem, some problem that is really affecting women in the world. So let's say the problem of men not fully respecting women. That's an issue that's out there. But the solution is always presented to go make yourself an object in a different way. And this is what you see in Cuties. So you have the narrative here is that this girl is from a part of Islam where women are very much controlled in how they dress and how they interact with men. The young girl's dad is getting a new wife, and so the mom is crying and she feels really disrespected. And the big battle cry, that this show is very much set up of this girl finds her freedom by putting on little tiny short shorts and a little tiny halter top and grinding in a very sexual way. And it is absolutely set up that this is freedom. And again, this is the same narrative of Sex and the City. Hey, we don't feel fully respected by men. We feel like they're not exactly honoring our full human dignity. So I know what we should do. We should sleep with everyone. If we sleep with the whole city, then we will find freedom and we will find enlightenment. This is what, you know what drives me crazy about secular feminism? And I like feminism. I like women. Do I not?
You do.
Shady?
You do.
We're women. I'm a woman.
I'm a woman.
I am too.
Whoa.
I have 4 daughters. I like women, so I like feminism. But what drives me crazy about godless, atheistic, secular feminism is they always identify the right problems very articulately, but then they come up with asinine solutions, ridiculous solutions. It's like secular feminism is like if you walk up to a house that is on fire and you're like, that house is on fire. Quick, everybody, set yourselves on fire. That is secular feminism. Like, they identify the right problem, and then they have an asinine solution. So, like, okay, so what Cuties, which, again, is a microcosm for messages that our girls are exposed to every day, what Cuties says is, hey, girls who are from a culture where you're legitimately controlled by men. The balance of power is way off. This is not a good thing. It's a real problem. You know how you can find your freedom is form a dance squad and just shake it in front of men in the most sexual way you possibly can.
Just twerk it all out.
Yeah. And this is, you know what it is they're sensing is that it is a power play. So they sense an uneven power dynamic in the world. So in this particular subculture that they're identifying, there is an uneven power dynamic between men and women. And they sense instinctively that letting it all hang out and turning yourself into an object is a power play. It's not good, but it is a power play. You will get attention. You will be able to have a certain sway over men if you wear sparkly hot pants. It gives you a form of currency. It's cheap currency, but it gives you a form of currency. And so you have these misguided messages that you see almost how they get there, because they're like, yeah, we don't have power, but if I gyrate in a man's face, then I do kind of temporarily have power over him. So that's the solution. You say, oh, what was the Jennifer Lopez stripper show? The movie. She was like flinging around on a pole,
with
and
Cardi
was
B.
glitter.
Yeah,
and Cardi
B
was in it.
I can't remember what it's called.
And that other cute girl was in it.
I can't remember what it's called.
Well,
that's how little attention I paid to that.
I'm looking this up. Just hang on. Everybody hang on. This is show prep happening. Jennifer, should I Google Jennifer Lopez stripper?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember.
I won't do an image search, though.
Trying to remember what it was called.
Hustlers.
There you go.
So it's the same narrative in Hustlers. You sense a power imbalance with men, and the way you fix that is you get yourself a stripper pole. Yeah, it's like a stripper pole solves everything because it is a path to social power. When you are wearing a string bikini and flinging yourself around on a pole, you have power. Well, so, I've had 6 kids, so not me, but you, I bet you would have a lot of social power if you do that. But the problem is that it is not in keeping with your human dignity. We need to start teaching our daughters, and again, this is why I bring this up. We need to start teaching our daughters what true freedom is. So this reminds me of the great quote from George Washington. So he had his troops, and he was about to cross the Delaware, and he turned to them, and he said, "There comes a time when people of courage must rise against tyranny. So men, don your booty shorts and shake that thing." That's what he said before, because that's how he got them.
I believe it.
To go across the Delaware, because that's how you find freedom. Because I learned that in Cuties.
Yeah.
That's how you find freedom.
You find freedom.
Is to shake that thing. And that is about as authentic as the dialogue is also in Cuties. And also when Julius Caesar was leading his troops to cross the Rubicon, which was this tremendous moment. He was trying to usher in a new era for the Republic. But it was scary because they were all going to die if they did not effectively you're making me laugh. If they did not effectively cross the Rubicon. And so this is true. Julius Caesar, the river behind him, he turned to his troops and he said, "We shall never find freedom until we twerk.
You must reveal the cheeks."
That's how, that's how people have always found freedom. They form dance squads and they shake it.
They do.
And that's right. Okay, so we need to have a big chat with our girls about what truly leads us to freedom. They will be surrounded by dumb, secular feminist ideas. And I add secular because there's plenty of good feminism out there. And there's also well-meaning feminism that is dumb. And that's what we're trying to combat here. And our daughters will be exposed to these messages. And the problem is, and the reason it's so alluring, and I even saw this with Sex and the City when I was just graduating from college and working in high tech and all that. The reason women were lured into these messages is because they're based on a grain of truth. The people who perpetuate these messages, they correctly sense an imbalance of power. But what we have to tell our daughters is the solution is not to make yourself into an object of lust. Yes, that will give you temporary power. Yes, that will give you temporary fleeting attention. But it is not in keeping with your human dignity. And so what do we tell our daughters? We say, look, yes, you need to fight for freedom and equality, and not just for women, for all people. You need to be part of the solution. And first of all, I think that is really helpful to kids to kind of have that rallying cry saying, hey, okay, you've watched your 10 hours of YouTube today. And boy, do I wish I were exaggerating that's how it goes in my house. But look, you need to be part of something bigger. You need to fight for something. There are battles to be fought out there. And let me just tell you that the way that women can step into the power that they're meant to have, that they should have, is by honoring their God-given dignity. And so that means dressing in a way like, hey, you're a daughter of the king. Royalty, girls who are quite literally daughters of kings, they don't wear booty shorts. They don't wear little tiny halter tops. Why? Because it is not regal. It is not befitting of their dignity. And another reason that this is important to bring up is sometimes in certain circles, especially I've seen this sometimes in Christian circles, it happens in all sorts of different religious circles, you can take the anti-cuties culture so far the other direction that then we tell our girls, like, you're going to burn in hell if you put on lip gloss, because it's trying to attract men's attention. It's trying to make yourself an object. The right answer is to tell our daughters, you need to figure out who God made you to be, and you need to discover that, and you need to be that unapologetically, and you need to dress in a way that honors that best honors that. And God didn't make anyone to twerk in a thong. So you can just, if you're like, no, but I think, no, God, that is not God's plan for anyone's life. You know why? Because it turns you into an object. It makes men see you, it makes anyone see you as an object of lust, as something to just be used and discarded, and that's not God's plan for anyone. So you figure out who you are, and you need to present yourself physically in a way that honors that. So for one girl, that might mean a tomboy look. That might mean short hair, no makeup, wearing super sporty stuff, and that is the best way that she can honor the person she was created to be. For another girl, it might be lots of makeup, hair done, wearing dresses, because that is who she was meant to be. But that's the goal, and our girls so often miss this. Our girls so often miss this because they're surrounded by a culture that correctly identifies the problem and offers them cheap solutions. Oh, and by the way, if you see people on social media saying, "Oh, Cuties is just I'm so glad I remembered this. I'm glad I remembered this, Shady.
I'm glad you remembered this.
Okay, I thought that this was probably annoying before I had actually seen Cuties. Now I know for sure it is the most annoying take that people are currently having on anything, and it's 2020, so we're living in the land of annoying takes. It's like the Twilight Zone, but only for annoying takes, dumb, bad takes. The dumbest, baddest, wrongest, baddest is a word now, wrongest take, so is wrongest.
Yeah.
I'm making words up for this situation. The worst take right now. I can't even, I'm going to be dumber for saying this. Shady, can you hold your head, like hold me up while I even repeat this, because it's just going to be hard.
You've got it.
All right, Shady's hand is up. She's holding me up.
Okay,
I want you guys put your prayer hands up as I say that this is going to be very hard for me to repeat this level of stupidity.
Oh, you can do it.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah, you
all right,
got
all
it.
right. I can do it.
You got it.
All right. People on social media are saying that Cuties is actually okay because it is an exploration of the exploitation of young girls. So Shady, that is what and let me know if I'm getting too technical into philosophical territory. So that is what philosophers call a lie.
Yeah.
That's a lie. That's just a lie. That is not what this show is. And that's why I watched it, because I knew someone was going to say that. They're like, Jen, you don't understand. You're just going all Catholic again, and you're just hating on a show that you haven't seen. But what you don't know is that it is actually an exploration of sexualization, and people just need to see the dark side. No. Lies. How many times do they have to do a close-up, zoom-in shot of the private parts in little tight shorts of a 10-year-old girl gyrating in a sexual way before we're like, no, this is just porn. This is just like low-grade child
porn. Who even
signs
off their child to be in that movie?
Oh, we need to, you're right. We need to have a
That's
council.
a whole nother.
We need to have a council meeting for the moms.
Like, why is no one attacking the parents?
It's unbelievable. But I mean, don't watch the show. Don't give Netflix any more views for this. But don't validate the French either. I'm probably more mad at the French than I am at Netflix, because I've had to hear from it. The French have everything all figured out with COVID. Well, they don't have everything figured out. This is I blame the French for this even more than I blame Netflix. This show, in the first 5 minutes, sets up girls wearing almost nothing and dancing in a sexual way as a juxtaposition to girls being oppressed by oppressive religious cultures. In the first 5 minutes, the girl she's in a very restrictive, oppressive Muslim household, and she walks into the laundry room where another immigrant girl from another country is just gyrating in a really super sexual way and is wearing like nothing. I mean, like the tightest little.
I wouldn't even
outfit.
wear an outfit like that.
And it wasn't. I would still not support this. There could be a way to show this. I mean, actually, people should never show this. There could be a way to explore that issue. That is not what is being done here. It is very clearly setting up this hyper-sexualized, showing your body, dancing in a provocative way as the path to freedom. It is a lie to say that it is an exploration of that issue. And in fact, so let's do a thought exercise. If it were to be an exploration of girls being exploited, the way it would be filmed is, first of all, there would be someone who is pushing these girls to do this. There would be some nefarious force and
they
antagonist.
wouldn't use actual 11-year-olds either.
Well, right, yeah, that's true. Another good point. There would be some sort of antagonist pushing them to do it, and if, again, correct, it would not be actual 11-year-olds. You wouldn't see these sorts of scenes. If there were a hint of a girl dancing in a provocative way, being scantily clad, it would have a dark veneer to it. The ominous Jaws music or something. It's something to indicate that this is bad. But what you actually see is so first of all, these girls are driving it themselves. So the antagonist is Muslim culture, and the antagonist is not perv guys who are pushing them to do this. I expected it to be like that. Yeah. Oh no, the antagonist is frankly Muslims, to put it bluntly, in Cuties. And again, I'm surprised people aren't more upset about that. So you see these girls, this is their choice to just twerk all over the place. The cameras are zooming in on their gyrating body parts, and these are seen as celebration scenes. There are fun music. It's all of the scenes in the Muslim household are shot in very dark colors. So it's very slow, very dark. It gives you a very suffocating, closed-in feel. Directors do this on purpose. But then when the girls get out away from it, and, the father who's marrying a second wife and all of that, like he's going to have 2 wives, and you see the twerking, gyrating sexual scenes as they're happy, it's fun music, it's bright, there's a lot of space. So anyone on social media who you see saying that Cuties should be defended because it is actually an exploration of some bad things that are going on with young girls, they're lying. Block them. It is the most intellectually dishonest take that anyone has on anything right now. And the reason we care is because this is not going to end. this is not going to end. Our girls are going to be exposed to these kind of messages that the way you fight an imbalance of power is by grasping for the cheap power of flying around a stripper pole, and we need to know how to combat those messages. So
yes,
let's pretend we never watched that. I wish this were full of whiskey. This is just talking about it. I feel like I'm a worse person.
There's champagne in the fridge.
Right, actually, yeah. I'm just gonna drink it straight out of the bottle after talking about that. Okay, what's next? This is where I will be taking calls on this show. I've been asking you guys to call in, and you have been. And this is my new hobby, is reading your texts and voicemails. They are amazing. I thought that I'd be ready to play your voicemails starting this week. Next week, Shady, I feel it. I think next week is when we will actually be able to play calls. So if you're wondering, hey, I called and I left a message and Jen hasn't played it. First of all, I do have a lot that I have to sort through. The technology is this close, so it's coming. But what I can do is read your texts. Now, don't forget to tell me your name when you text, because I am getting some amazing texts, but I don't know just tell me your first name so that I can give you credit. So this is a woman in area code 203. Well, let's figure out hang on. What is area code 203? Area?
Yeah, we gotta know.
Code.
We want to know.
203. Connecticut. That is
okay.
a lovely part of the country.
Connecticut.
So, let's call her Shelly. We just make up names.
I love it
on this show. Shelly. Shelly in Connecticut says, Jen, I have something funny to show you. Look at what happened when I used the library app to try to find your book at my local library. Shady, would you like to pull that up and take a look?
Okay.
My book.
Oh my goodness.
My book is called Your Blue Flame. Drop the guilt and do what makes you come alive. As it turns out. Oh my
goodness, this is too much.
A woman, could you describe, so there is also a book called Blue Flame. Mm-hmm. Could you describe this, Shady?
A lot of abs. There's a lot of abs happening right here in front of me.
It's about a fireman. You know what? Let's read the Amazon description. It's a romance novel about a fireman. Now, if you are familiar
Blue Flame
with romance novels at all, if you are at all familiar with romance novels, you know that men do not wear shirts no matter what they do.
No.
Neurosurgeons, I thought that if you were a neurosurgeon, you would have to wear gloves and a mask and a whole thing if you're headed into brain surgery. But I know from romance novels that I see on Amazon, you actually
when you
shirtless.
Have abs, you don't do that.
Yeah, you're just so ripped.
People are mad that you put a shirt on.
What if someone woke up from anesthesia? They'd want to see these abs, right? Like not some.
This
scrubs.
Is calming. They're like, it's okay,
right? Like, hey, I know it's like your head is
nice
bleeding a bit, but look at these abs. And also,
and
there are other professions, bus drivers, and they're ripped. Because I thought that sometimes bus drivers, they have sedentary jobs.
I had no idea.
I've seen bus drivers, and I didn't know that actually a lot of them they're tan, they're bronze, they have these pecs, and they never wear shirts.
I had no idea.
So right, and one of the reasons I'm familiar with this is whenever an author has a book come out, you always check your rankings all the time. And my book was doing very well as hardcover nonfiction goes. Alas, I was getting crushed by romance novels. I could have been in the Amazon top 10 for Kindle, but all of these romance novels
Who reads these
kept
things?
Crushing me. Oh, well, romance novels are the dirty little secret of publishing is that romance novels keep the entire publishing industry alive. It's like welfare for authors like me that write real books. It's how we get advances in book deals because everyone is buying book porn, and it's a multiple $billion a year industry.
Do you think that they're just putting them on their shelves and just buying them to have them because they're funny, or
what do you think?
How many people are actually reading them?
No, it's not like no one does. And actually, people can look up episode 36. I once bought a book about being a nudist because Joe and we were going to do the practical joke long game, go to our friends' houses for parties, it was like nudist bowling, like nudist bowling techniques. You can imagine the illustrations. We were going to sneak it on their bookshelves. Anyway, you can look that up, episode 36 of this show. And it was a total cell phone because we just didn't deal with it. We moved, and then it got put by the movers on our bookshelf.
I just think the cases with Fabia were funny. So when I see those, I'm like, I almost buy them every time.
But that's not, you don't get $1 billion industry from people being like, ha ha. No, women are
reading it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Callie Hayes is the hardworking manager of the Blue Flame, Arizona's most remote, relaxing guest ranch. Oh, you know what? I find this refreshing because I was on Christy Clover's podcast. You can look her up here on YouTube. It's a YouTube podcast. You can see my face when she told me that Blue Flame, the title of my whole book, like what was the publishing team? A team reviews these titles. I don't know what they were doing. She said the title of my whole book is a term for lighting farts on fire.
I had no idea.
Yeah, well, you saw it on my social media. I made a big deal, but before that.
Okay. Yeah.
But you didn't know before that, right?
No, I did not.
Evidently, this is a West Coast thing, and in West Coast, get it together. Don't, why do you even have terms like this? People from the Midwest, Texas, and the East Coast, we're normal. Because we don't, you know what? We don't need a term because we don't do that. But people on the West Coast, it's a hobby.
Yeah.
You know, it's like how we might like join a gym or,
chug a
volunteer
beer,
with the homeless.
maybe.
They set their farts on fire, so they need a term for it. This is a known anthropological thing. Cultures only have words for what they need. Like there are some, in anthropology, I studied a tribe in the Congo in Africa. They don't have a word for snow because they don't need it. There is no, there's not a term like build a snowman because they don't need that. You only need a term for lighting your farts on fire if you're doing it a lot. So California, get it together and stop ruining my book titles. So I'm liking this romance novel.
That's hilarious.
Because at least, who wrote this? Jill somebody wrote this. Who wrote this?
Let me see.
Jill Shalvis. Jill Shalvis? No, I like you because you, like me, you think that this is a sexy fireman term. I think it's a term for discovering your God-given gifts. But we agree, Jill.
Yep.
That it's not a term for lighting your farts on fire.
Jill.
Callie Hayes is the hardworking manager of the Blue Flame, Arizona's most remote, relaxing guest ranch. She's given everything to the ranch: body, heart, and soul. Things that go haywire when her sexy employer suddenly shows up. Wait, who owns? I thought she owned the ranch.
I thought that maybe she.
So
was
who owns the
managing
ranch?
it?
Is a heart? Oh, she's the manager.
Yeah.
But she didn't know he was sexy. It sounds like she didn't know that.
She's like, oh.
Their intense, stormy past. Oh, they have a past. Okay. Has taught Callie never to mix business with pleasure.
Don't
and
do
so
it.
she doesn't, and that's where the book ends. She's like, I'm going to set boundaries because
And that's where the book ends.
I'm going to respect myself as an empowered woman. And if this guy is not serious about commitment and is not okay with me waiting for marriage, then I am going to have healthy boundaries and move on to a more fulfilling relationship.
There you go.
So that's where it ends.
There you go. That's the end of the book. No wonder it was a bestseller.
He may have left the fires behind.
Oh.
But he hasn't escaped the heat.
Oh, no.
You know what? Let's copy and paste this. My book is going to come out in paperback.
You should.
Let's copy and paste this for my book. It's better than my back cover.
Do
I
it.
literally wrote the back cover to Your Blue Flame while I was waiting for my bags at the Austin airport. I wrote it in Notes app. I copied and pasted it into an email.
You're like,
so
that'll
I
do.
can't make fun of anyone saying he may have left the fires behind, but he hasn't escaped the heat.
I can't.
Because I didn't try much harder on my. I could do that. You may have left. We'll do this for the paperback release. So I'm going to take the description from the Blue Flame romance novel and talk about how we could use this for my book. So you might be a firefighter who inherited a ranch from your father. Maybe you were injured in a high-profile rescue. But you might have found that now the fire has gone out of your life. But when you read Your Blue Flame by Jen Fulweiler, you will find that you can't escape the heat.
The heat. No, you can't.
Now the sparks between you and whoever you know will fly. And when you read your blue flame, they will threaten to burn out of control. One more text before we wrap up this triumph of a broadcast.
Yes.
I love your pod tales. Autocorrect. I heard about you through Father Daryl Millette, good friend of mine.
Love him.
Listen to my radio show. Oh, yeah, you know Father Daryl. Okay. So thank you, Cheryl. She gave me a name. Thank you, Cheryl. One more. Now this, and I don't know this person's name. Area code 719. Shady, would you look up where we are hearing from here? Area code 719.
719.
Our pediatrician asked my 2-year-old if she brushes her teeth. She said every night. That is not true, but I wasn't going to correct her. That's a woman after my own heart.
Colorado Springs.
Oh, Colorado Springs. That might be my agent. Lisa, I will get this out. This is actually,
Is it your agent?
My agent is from Colorado Springs, and I owe her. Lisa, I will. Look, for people who thought I was kidding, that I ignore the correspondence sent to my real phone, and I only read texts and voicemails sent to the show. I think this might actually be my agent. Oh, no, her kids aren't this young. But so just found out that the 3-year-old attached the 2-year-old to a doorknob with a pair of suspenders, but they left me alone for 20 minutes. Huh. So that's all good.
Huh. I mean,
I think that's a life hack.
That's like a homemade, like, bouncy thing that you put in the middle of the door, you know?
Here's another one. If you need to know how things are going around here today, just imagine a toddler trying to run a mini pumpkin through a laminator. Contribute your... This is exactly what I'm looking for. Contribute your thoughts. 512-222-3523. And I know I keep saying that I will play your calls. It's been a voyage to get
it's a journey
everything
every
else
day.
up and running. We will have that going. Get your bonus content, plus watch me step into my true calling as a hair, beauty, makeup vlogger, or vlogger, or
I think
just
so. I think that's the word.
What's it? Goddess. Like I'm telling you, all I do, I spend any extra money I have goes to makeup. I research it all the time. It's a hobby for me. I love it. I'm going to be telling you everything I know. Everything. And some of it, like I said, is private. Don't share publicly. Don't put it where people can Google it, because I don't want some of it's, I don't know, maybe embarrassing. Just so if you join the Patreon, you can put it on your stories. You can tell your friends, but just don't tell them everything, because one of the whole reasons I'm putting it on Patreon is to keep it off of Google. So you can find that patreon.com/thisisjen. Shady Ray. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Hallie Lord. Thank you. We need to get Hallie in studio with us next time
amazing.
so that she can see what we go through. Setting
she might be able to help.
Show. Just don't forget, don't watch Cuties. You do not ever, whatever anyone says to defend it, they're lying. And I'd like to conclude by saying boycott France. They're the problem. Netflix maybe, Netflix also has some really good redeeming things. France is the problem. I want to end on that note, and I will be back soon here on This Is Jen.